Okay, so I got a commission a while ago. So this one's kind of taken me a while to make a planter out of a skull, but not just any skull. It ended up being a Triclops skull. So I found one, and then I modified it, which is what I'm showing you right here is the modifications that I made. And then of course I moved on to other things. But anyway, let me get started. So this here is the skull. It was something I found on Thingiverse. I will link both mine and this original on the finale, with the finale, like I usually do. So this was a scan of an actual skull, like a medical scan, that was converted into a Triclops. So you'll notice you can see like ridges and excuse me, and everything. So it is a legit skull, which I thought was cool. So what I'm doing here with that red cube is, since I'm converting it into a planter, it needs to be able to stand very steadily. And you could see before I dropped the block in that it was, a scan of a skull, so it was really rough. So I am building a base for it using the basic shapes in Tinkercad to accent as much as I could the shape of the skull. So you can see here as I'm dropping in the cylinders, I'm kind of matching them with the top jaw line, and then tweaking things as I go along. So yeah, see, like reducing those so that they're not blocking in the nasal cavities or anything like that. So no, I found this skull. I thought it was really, really neat. Holly, the gal who I made this for, the patron I made this for, approved the skull. So then I set about to doing all of the modifications. And you can see, like I was making sure that I didn't want to rob the skull of too much of its detail, but I still wanted to make sure that it had, a good solid base to stand on. And so I was extra careful to make sure that I did that. So this cube is actually what I used to set the trench in the top of the skull. You can see I'm placing it right here. So that there's a place to put, the soil and the plants or whatever, was going to be the, whatever was going to go in it, sorry. And so, yeah, basically I just, I dinked around with it a little bit, made sure that I could get it, I put it in the right position so it'd be, it'd look right. It was centered in the skull. Generally just pretty basic stuff, but it took a little bit, like you could see right there in the face, the little bit of the cube that comes through that third eye. Yeah, and then I moved it up so it didn't do that anymore. And so, yeah, just kind of tweaking where I could to make it what I needed it to be. And so, and then, of course, I turned the shape into a hole because I want that to be a trench. And I pretty much figured that this is where I wanted it to be, at least to take a first good glance. So, yeah, made sure that everything was as I wanted it. And then you can see here I changed it. I saved it as an object file, which honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to do that again because, yeah, you can see even here I changed it to STL because it saves objects as a zip file, and it just, I don't know, it seemed weird to me. So, yeah, see, like I had to unpack the object, whereas when you save things as an STL, it just drops the file into your hard drive, so it made it really, really easy. but yeah, so I brought it into the image viewer here so that I could see it without, you know, like mainly the trench without the anti-shape of the block that I used, and then to make sure that I could just, you know, get a general look at it without all of the, you know, like measurements and stuff popping up, so yeah, you can see, I mean, it looks pretty all right. Like this, like for the trench, that's pretty close to what I went with. It's been a little while since I actually did this part of it. All of this prep work for getting it printed, I actually did before moving out of the old workspace. So it's been a little while, so you'll have to bear with me. Because, you know, I've done a bit between now and then. So yeah, no, I pretty much liked where the trench was. At this point, I don't think I modify it anymore, but what I did do, I think what I'm doing right here is looking and determining that I think I want the base to be a little bit bigger. And so I think, yeah, when I pop back into Tinkercad here, that's what I do. But otherwise, you know, at this point, I do believe I'm on the right track. I think I also, when we were looking at the bottom, I discovered that there was a little gap in between the two cylinders and the cube. So when I draw back into Tinkercad, I think I fixed that at this phase as well. So yeah, like you can't really see it there, but you can right there. Oh, and yeah, I had to drop the cylinders a little bit, like they were, I don't know. No, I might be getting ahead of myself, but let's see, what am I doing here? I'm probably writing something down. I take a lot of notes. I don't know if you've noticed, but in quite a few of these episodes, I have a clipboard, if not in my hand, somewhere visible, or I at least like refer to it off camera. I constantly take notes and keep track of like sizes and shapes and stuff. And honestly, that's good practice for whatever you're making, especially if you're making something from scratch or modifying something, or you know, I mean, pretty much just good general practice to take notes. You can't really go wrong with taking notes. Yeah, see, there I go with the extending out the base a little bit to make sure that it's got a good landing. Oh, so yeah, sorry, this is a time lapse. I know it doesn't look like I'm going particularly fast, but this was like, I don't know, I think it took me an hour and a half to do everything that we'll see in this episode. So it was like four time speed or something like that. And so, yeah, it doesn't look very sped up because it was something I was trying to be very precise. And like I said, I was writing down notes and such. And I I really wanted to get this right because it's a commission for somebody. So, so double and triple checking all of my measurements and just making sure that I felt right about it going forward, because once I actually build it, that's it. So, so I think, yeah, this is where I go into Kira. As I finally open up Kira. Maybe? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that's another thing that I recommend, though, back to what I was saying a couple of seconds ago, is double, triple check everything. Not getting it right is pretty much inevitable, but if you double and triple check, you can mitigate that. So I definitely recommend it. So now that I've got the skull in Kira, you can see that it's kind of weird looking because it's got all of the support structure there. That is an unfortunate byproduct. I wanted to make sure that my skull wasn't going to cave in or fail on me. So I used support, and then and you'll see later on when I remove the support, like that it does. You would think that it would, like damage or mutate or cause extra work, and it really isn't that bad if you're lucky and if you have your printer setting right. But here we go. This is where I noticed the little divot in between the two cylinders. Yeah. And then the fact that it's all built on support material, like that bottom layer was a support grid, and that was not what I wanted. I wanted the base to be the first layer. So those were a couple of things that I noticed. That little divot in between the cylinders and the cube for the base, and then I needed to figure out what was keeping it off of the build plate for the printer, so that I didn't have that weird couple of layers of support underneath the whole thing. I mean, it wouldn't have damaged anything or messed anything up, but it was one of those things I definitely didn't. I didn't want it there. So I think, did a final check to make sure that those were the only oddnesses I find. Okay, there we go. Here's my final check. And then I think I drop back into Tinkercad here shortly and remedy some of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, the skull itself looks really good. Oh, right. The other thing, you see right there at the base of the trench, there's that weird bright yellow bit in the center along the front end, like the side of the trench that is at the face. I needed to fix that too. Completely forgot about that. So this is me looking at it in terms of what I can do to fix it. Is it going to be a problem? And so forth. Yeah, you can see there, because since it's for planter, I wanted to make sure that it was a good solid structure, so that when I sealed the skull, it'd still not have a leaky problem. But yeah, so first design did not work out perfectly, but it was close. And so, see, here I go. I'm repairing the little gap between. You can see here I'm dropping those down so that they're actually touching the build plate, and you could see that little bit of the skull coloring that was poking through the skull. I'm pretty sure that was my culprit. Either way, once I made these adjustments and went back into Kira, everything seemed to be fine. So really, really happy about that. And I think I show that here in just a sec. Yeah, so there's the skull. Switch it to the layer mode. Yeah, there we go. And then, see, there we go. That's what I wanted. Where that support material isn't building up first underneath the base. And that's it. I got my winner. So now it's on to the 3D printer.